Rockin' Larry Lockin' Pleiadian Light Grid Project. Actually, today I'm going to be your political Pleiadian, your Pleiadian Lyran contactee with all the cosmic honesty. Okay, enough of that. Really quick to get started here, I'm going to talk today a little bit about a message I got from the Pleiadians regarding the U.S. presidential election here of 2016 and why that's so important. Now, typically, I know for a lot of us starseeds, we're kind of above the political thing. And even though I used to be a political insider and campaigned for a few presidents, met a couple others, when I had my awakening in 2011, I completely disassociated with politics and, realized what an illusion it was. And, of course, I always knew it was bullshit, but I realized what a complete controlled game it was and that both sides were on basically both sides of the fence were really just on the same side. And, and their job was basically to keep us in gridlock forever and eternity. But this 2016 election has a lot of subplots to it. I mean, more so than any of the bullshit you hear in the mainstream media. And I'll get to that in a little bit too. People that get hung up on things that they're hearing in the mainstream media and whatnot and all the conspiracy theories. But, 2016 is really a key year. I look at it as a transition year into, I can't think of a year in recent memory where we're going to know so much by the end of this year, just where we're headed, what the next phase of this evolution is. And the presidential election is really a reflection of that here in the United States. I mean, you've got things that have never happened before, such as, an outsider from a little small state way up in the Northeast with, a population of, only a handful. Well, I exaggerate about that. It's a little more than that. But Bernie Sanders of Vermont, which when I was starting to get out of politics, I had just started hearing about him and listening to him. And I thought, man, how amazing. The only honest politician I've ever heard in my life. But I realized, hey, he could never be president. He's from some small podunk state. And then also you've got the entertainer Donald Trump running for president. And I know a lot of people out there, man, I've been doing a lot of research, and there's a lot of people that really think that this guy's some kind of messiah almost. Trump in 16, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Both Trump and Sanders are touched by spirit, I feel. They were sent here at this time basically to, shake things up a bit. And you can really see it with especially the Republican Party, all the infighting and, they're typically have been the party in years past that no matter what, I mean, they were thicker than thieves and, they kept all their disagreements really behind the scenes. But I mean, it's like anything goes now. The whole thing has just been turned completely upside down. But what Trump is doing is Trump is showing those phony Republicans, the hypocritical Republicans that have really always been that way. He's being, what you see is what you get with Donald Trump. I mean, say what you will about him, but, he does it better than they do. He's beaten the Republicans at their own game. You know what I mean? He walks the walk with that cockiness, with that arrogance, and they only wish that they could be him, the rest of them. I mean, just look, and you've still got some of the people on the news. Well, gee, if, even though he won South Carolina yesterday, you've still got people out there. Well, if the other, if there's 5 people left in the presidential election, you've got really 3 that only have a chance of winning it on the Republican side for the nomination. You've got, of course, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Trump, and Dr. Ben Carson and Governor John Kasich of Ohio. Kasich and Carson will be out of it soon, really. So it's really down to those 3 at this point. And very, very interesting, the fighting and the transparency going on in public. I mean, if anybody's had a chance to watch some of the debates, it's really comical. I mean, I can't believe what I'm seeing. And I know I was talking to my fiance, Sif, about this. She's from Iceland but lives in Denmark, and it blows her mind that this is going on in U.S. politics. And I'm like, I know. It's really crazy, but and they think that when these other two drop out, that the people are still holding on. These old fuckers that have been doing the news forever and a day, and the brain dead idiots on Fox News that look like they've got 50 pounds of makeup on. They've all had teeth replacements, and they're all wearing contact lenses and phony wigs. I mean, I realize that every news station is like that, but Fox News is terrible. They look like they've been dressed up by Pat Robertson and Tammy Faye Baker or something. But they think, oh well, if the Super Tuesday's coming up, and if some of these other people drop out, well, those votes could go to Rubio and Cruz. Well, not all of them will, and Trump's so far ahead that I mean, basically, it's over with. It'd have to be sabotage. He's going to be the nominee. And as far as on the Democratic side go, you've only got two contenders. You got Bernie and Hillary, and it looks like Hill's going to go ahead and get it. I like Bernie Sanders a lot, but it looks like Hillary is probably going to, edge him out in the long run as I look state by state, barring some kind of a fluke. But what I think is going to happen, and what the Pleiadians have come through to me and basically explained, is it's like this. Okay. And, I know Cryon talks about this too, and Barbara Marciniak has alluded to this. Most Pleiadian contactees, I think, would agree that it's really hard to predict the future, right? Because timelines change second by second, day by day, minute by minute. But as it stands right now, in this now moment, what you're going to end up having is you're going to end up having Trump win the Republican nomination. And he is going to, believe it or not, select Marco Rubio, Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, as his vice to run with him. And get ready, hold on to your seats. I think Hillary's going to invite Bernie. Well, I know as of this now moment, that's what's going to happen. But again, a bunch of things can change. But Hillary is going to pick Bernie to run as her vice. And I think that Bernie would do a great job as vice president, keeping Hillary kind of a little bit more progressive than she typically is. And I'm not even going to get into all the email bullshit, because you know what? Fuck all the haters out there. I mean, if you really wanted to talk shit, I mean, you look at the Bush family, you look at Reagan, you look at all the Republicans, you look at I mean, they nail her for everything. And you know what? She's no angel. There's no question about it. None of these people are angels, except for maybe Bernie. And maybe Donald, little devil and angel. But, part of it's because she's a female. And you've got to understand, too, part of it is because she's a Democrat. And when her and Bill Clinton got into the White House in the early 90s, they were the first Democrats to be in there in over 12 years, since Jimmy Carter was in the 70s. You had a whole 10-year or 12-year run, 2 terms of Reagan, and then a term of Bush Sr. And of course, Clinton upset Bush Sr. in 92. And man, it was on since then. And they couldn't even blink without, having the press up there is no such thing as a liberal. I'm going to tell people out there that if they've ever heard the term liberal media, or people in other countries know that liberal media, there is no such thing, and never has been in America, the liberal media. It's corporate media is what it's always been. But by default to that, the corporate media usually has always been very, very pro-Republican, because they vote on the side of big business and big conglomerates. But so anyway, I mean, of course, Clinton got a, big deal. Clinton got a blowjob in the White House. Okay, so what? So something like that, they're on him about that, and they're on him about this, and then it never ended. And and then Hillary, the Benghazi, and the emails and all that shit. And really, it's not that I have a problem with it being investigated, right? It's not that I have a problem, but what I don't like is the undertone to it. I don't like them doing it because it's who she is. You know what I mean? There's still a lot of feminists. There's still a lot of anti-feminists in this country. A lot of old Republican hard energy that, whether they're willing to still admit it or not, think the woman should be barefoot and pregnant and, not out in the workforce. I know, I mean, Jesus Christ, we still got Pat Robertson on TV here in the United States. I mean, these people think like, they're from the 1840s. And so a lot of it's that. But, Hillary's a strong woman. I started admiring her probably when I was 17 years old, when her and Bill Clinton first hit the scene. And I thought, what a beautiful intellectual woman. I mean, yeah, she's got her downfalls and all that, but you know what? As far as 3D land goes, she'd be a goddamn good president. I really do believe so. And with Bernie at her side, keeping her on track, and Hillary's smart. Hillary knows what the people want, not just what they want to hear. Times have changed. I mean, under 45 crowd, 77% of the vote on the Democratic side here in the primary in Nevada yesterday, went to Bernie Sanders. So she realized she's got to change with the times. Okay. And I just see for Trump the perfect kind of fit to pander to that other part of the Republican constituency that's got questions about Trump. Marco Rubio would be the best choice. Now, that'll be really interesting to see it go down, if it goes down like that, because you'll have Marco and Bernie going at it, and of course Bernie, Marco will have some passion, but Bernie will destroy him in the debates, and that's not my opinion. That's just the reality of it. Um, Donald and Hillary will be interesting. They can both hold their own. Of course, Trump will bring up the emails, Benghazi, the fact that Clinton got a blowjob. God forbid. I'm sure Trump's had a few in his day too. Yeah, in fact, if I was the one investigating that whole scandal with Monica Lewinsky, if I was the chief investigator, the only thing I would have had to say when I was done with my investigation is I would have came out and said, you know, the only thing unfortunate and sad about this whole situation is that it wasn't me. Ha ha ha, I'm just kidding. Not really. But, the fact is okay, Trump will bring up these points, and what it'll do is it'll just make for good entertainment, because the people that already support Trump and kind of the people of that right-wing Christian fundamentalist mentality, they will, they'll be like, rah, rah, rah. Yeah, of course, they wouldn't vote for Hillary anyway if Hillary walked on water and, saved 10 drowning kids on national TV. I mean, she might as well. It wouldn't matter if she bombed a children's hospital in Iraq, or if she jaywalked, they'd still be after her in the same way, because it's that kind of a game that they play. And Hillary's a very sharp, astute debater. She'll get Trump rattled. He will have a tendency to say outrageous things, more outrageous shit than you've ever seen before. But again, of course, that will pander to the people that are on his side. And of course, the people that like Hillary or Bernie, and most independents, actually, I think, most sound-minded, independent, voting, thinking people, I mean, they've heard all this shit before. They don't give a shit about our emails. They don't give a shit about, this Benghazi thing. While it was tragic and everything, they realize that that's about the least of what's been done by most of these other fucking, establishment politicians, whether it's, the Bushes, the Reagans, I mean, shit that even Bill Clinton and Obama knew about here and there. They realize that it's really nothing. Um, so it's just going to be kind of entertaining. And what gets me is, what really alarms me a little bit, is that you go into most of these Trump videos on YouTube, and, yeah, the people that comment, I can't believe that still in 2016 people are that. It's one thing to like him, but they're like, look at him as a messiah. Like, these people are so fucking desperate in their lives that they're looking for a hero or somebody to hang on to, instead of just somebody for inspiration. Again, we've talked about this a million times. Looking without, waiting for somebody to save you. It's like the Pleiadians say, we want you to save you. We're not going to just come save you. You know what I mean? We'll get you the last 10% of the way there. But, I mean, you're going to have to save yourself, with all the tools you need to do it. But you don't just sit there and wait. I mean, wait for somebody to come see these people like Trump. This Trump is the man. Trump's going to do this. And these people are so blinded by that it wouldn't matter, though, if this person was, if Donald Trump was Gandhi, Hitler, Stalin, the Pope, Christ, anything in between. They're caught up in a person. They're caught up in an image, and they don't take other things into consideration, right? I mean, they just, let shit here and there go. And you got to admire Trump, though, man. I'll tell you what, I've never seen a Democrat or a Republican in 1 week. He called the Obamas out, the Clintons out, the Bushes out over 9/11, the Pope, you know, Ted Booze Cruz, Ted 1955 thinking Cruz. I called him a liar, called Jeb Bush a liar. I mean, Trump is really laying it out there. You know, but here's how it's going to go down, though. People have to understand, okay? Unless the election gets rigged at the boxes, and you can bet your ass it's not going to be a low voter turnout this time. I just don't see. It doesn't matter. They could try to indict Hillary, whatever. Nobody's going to think anything of it that supports her as a Democrat anyway. It's not, they're not going to indict her. I mean, my God. I mean, her own administration, they're she'll get pardoned. They'll do away with it. It's not about getting pardoned. It's that charges would be recommended to the Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who's under Obama in the FBI would recommend that, and that would be up to her whether or not to pursue it or not, and they won't. You know what I mean? I mean, they got 25 emails where she's talking about this shit with somebody else. You know, and they play it off like, oh my God, these terrorists could have heard it and found this and found that. It's like these idiots over the Apple thing. If the FBI is that fucking stupid where they can't break into something like that and they want to legislate a company like Apple to create a software to get into this phone, to fight terrorism because there's something we might fight. Yeah, so let's give up everybody's rights and freedoms to go on a witch hunt to find out what we might be able to find out about a terrorist. Well, hey, you know what? All it is a power play by the FBI trying to chin check. It's all it is. It's a bullying tactic. If they had half a brain, hey, get another one. Of course, with these phones, if you try to unencrypt it 10 times, it completely deletes the information. But hey, go get one of the phones, go get a similar phone just like it, and try breaking in on that phone until you get, and get several phones till you can finally do it. And then you can try to encrypt this phone that you got. But it's just ridiculous. I mean, you know what I mean? It's so sickening. I mean, if the FBI is that inept, which they're not, it's a game. If they're that inept, I wouldn't help them if somebody was getting ready to blow their family's house up. I mean, I'm not even kidding. I mean, it's just ridiculous. To fight terrorism. There's always got to be a boogeyman here for the United States. Whether it was, and keep in mind, okay, these can be all considered real threats, but I mean, if it, it was the Nazis, then it was the Soviet Union, then it was Iraq, then it was the terrorists. I mean, there's always got to be a boogeyman, and there's always underlying stories to all this shit, okay? And, we put a label on something, and we got to fight this, and boy, we really got to keep making that surge and all this bullshit. And you hear these Republicans talk in the debates, and it's like I'm listening to somebody from the 1970s, 50s, 80s, some old Reagan hardline chicken hawks like Bush, Nixon, and all these idiots like that want to just keep build the military up, build it up, build it up. We got to fight, this and that and everything abroad. I mean, we've got the largest goddamn weaponry in the whole world. I mean, there's nothing that can threaten us except for shit that the military really can't defend against. I mean, dirty bombs, things like that. It's ridiculous. It's just a big illusionary game, and all this whole thing is the news is really sickening. It's just these people live in a whole nother lower dimension. And I just really feel bad that a lot of Americans are still in that mentality of, oh, Trump, Hillary should go to prison. Hillary, well, that's beside the point. They know goddamn good and well if they had half a fucking brain that she's not going to. I mean, her and Obama, they're on the same team. They're very close. I mean, come on. Plus I'm sure she knows a lot of dirt on him too. So it's not even worth talking about. It'd be like thinking that, okay, George W. Bush is going to be indicted, but it's up to Jeb and George Sr. to prosecute, and then going, oh, he's going to get indicted. Give me a fucking break, people. Please quit it with that shit and the conspiracies and all that shit. Come on. I mean, really, it's like with Alex Jones. I like Alex sometimes with his stuff, but lately he's all up Trump's ass and worshiping Donald Trump and acting like a total, fuck, man, Trump can do no wrong. And, oh, Bernie Sanders people or supporters are not. The other day he was saying, oh, they sit there with their jackets on, with their hammer and with their Nazi swastika and their hammer and sickle from the Soviet Union. Well, first of all, the Soviet Union's dead. And, Nazis the Nazis and the Soviet Union hated each other as much as we hated either one of them. So, and they're totally not the same. It's totally counter philosophy. So, Alex is getting ridiculous and selling his vitamins and shit and all his conspiracy theories that he's been talking about for 50 years, like Jade Helm and Agenda 21. And, it's just, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And keep in mind, all this shit is real. But when you start buying into the daily paranoia of it all the time and just keep talking about it and talking about it, I mean, it's really ridiculous. It's, like I've bitched before about people talk about Nasara all the time. Oh, the free money's coming. It's going to be released. It's going to be released. Well, I believe at some point a situation like that'll happen, but quit labeling it. And at this point, until you know for a goddamn fact it's coming this weekend, like you're 100% sure and you're like, shut the fuck up about it. And let's just deal with the issues we've got right now. So I decided to kind of jump back in and monitor this particular election, one more time after I'd been out of it for a long time. And it's important to see where it goes. And as of this now moment, that's probably the matchup you're going to see. Hillary with Bernie as her, running mate versus Donald, and he'll probably pick Rubio. Of course, things can happen between now and then, okay? Yes, the email scandal could blow up and maybe Hillary resign or decides not to run anymore, but that I don't see that happening. Donald Trump could, decide not to run anymore, but that's not going to happen. My fear for him, though, is that I hope he's got a lot of protection around him because, I mean, like I said, in 1 week, he's also pissed off the Mexican drug cartels. They're hot on his ass. So he's pissed them off. He's pissed Obama off. He basically hinted that Obama might have had something to do with that, that fat idiot Scalia off the Supreme Court who just died. I mean, he's, again with the Clintons, Bush, and 9/11, which I agree with the 9/11 thing on Bush, the way he's done it. And if there's documentation out there, it needs to be looked at. But, and this is the really weird thing, you guys. The other night, I was getting ready to go to sleep, and I hadn't thought about Justice Antonin Scalia in a long time. I mean, I can't stand him. The Supreme Court's 5-4, was 5-4. Conservative, 4 liberal. And Scalia, to me, I don't hate anybody on earth. I love everybody. But this guy is the biggest dirtbag that I could actually almost feel some hate feelings for. He was a hypocrite and an asshole and did some really shady shit in his career on the bench. I mean, they say, oh, he was so consistent and a constitutionalist and so for states' rights and ruled by states' rights. Yeah, except for when it came for the states having the rights to, choose how they wanted to on abortion or the marijuana issue. And let me tell you something else. Really why I hate this guy, why I hated that fat son of a bitch. And to this day still. In the 2000 U.S. presidential election, Al Gore, Clinton's vice, ran against George W. Bush. Gore won the popular vote by 500,000, but the state of Florida was hanging in the balance because we don't go by popular vote in America, we go by the Electoral College. Well, anyway, it was reported that night, okay, Gore won Florida, next president of the United States, and Bush came on TV and said, yeah, we'll see about that. And meanwhile, of course, at that time, guess who was governor of Florida? Jeb Bush, George's little brother. So, okay, so what ended up happening was this was in debate for a couple weeks, whatever. It turned out at the end of the night, George Bush somehow mysteriously won Florida. Now they went to a recount. Okay, so they went to this recount, right? Started at about towards the end of the week. They were going to need till about the end of Sunday night to finish the recount. The 5-4 Supreme Court, the 5 Republican dominated Supreme Court, did something they'd never, ever, ever done before. They met on a Saturday to force Florida to stop the recount instead of meeting on that next Monday morning when it would have been done. Well, they continued the recount anyway behind the scenes. Turns out Gore actually won Florida by 150 votes. Um, yeah, so and Scalia was a hypocrite like that and a total, so I didn't really care for the guy, but I had this feeling, it's so weird. I had this thought deep into meditation, contacting with my Pleiadian orbs and Lyran orbs, just sitting there chilling in the dark, getting ready to go to sleep. And I had this thought in my mind. I'm like, God, I've never wished death on anybody before, but that fucking Supreme Court, that Antonin Scalia, I wish something. And then I caught myself and I said, no, don't think that way. That's not right. And then I felt the peaceful, calming feeling from my guides. Went to sleep. The very next day, of course, first thing I see on YouTube, Antonin Scalia passed away, on a hunting trip, doing one of the things he loved to do most, shoot and kill animals. Scalia was found dead, of course. I think people know the story here in the U.S. So, in his room. He was 79, way overweight. Probably ate a shitload of pasta all the time and unhealthy food. And, of course, here comes the conspiracy theories afterward. Obama had him killed. You know, shit like that, Alex Jones, people just digging and digging and digging and just, I feel for these people because as this world's becoming more and more transparent, I feel for I wonder what they're going to do when there's really nothing to chase and dig and dig and dig at. And, chase endless empty rabbit holes, while once in a fluke of a while, they'll be onto something. But they're more interested in staying in a conspiracy chase, an argument, an us against them mentality. It's one thing if you got a bunch of proof. I mean, you sure as hell didn't hear what you do, Alex Jones, but you didn't hear a lot of these Republican evangelical types like John Hagee or like fucking 180-year-old Pat Robertson, calling, being suspicious about the, second tower that went down on 9/11 and the way the Pentagon was hit. Oh no, God forbid. Don't unseal that paperwork or don't say anything. But they just, I mean, this one guy was even like, oh, Obama's probably going to start coming out on a prayer rug and announce he's Muslim before he's out of the office. I mean, he's out of the office in like 9 months. I mean, he's okay. Like I have said before, I mean, even giving him a second of thought of a debate or a concern, it'd be like worrying about Ronald Reagan at this point. He's not going to declare martial law. He's not going to, these people are going to, I wonder who they're going to, they're going to need somebody new to pick on after Obama's gone and, find another conspiracy chase. But I'm sure they will. But things are becoming more and more transparent. And back to the point I was making, Bernie has really caught on completely with the people that are more left thinking, that are totally disenfranchised with the establishment. And meanwhile, good people on the right side and the right wing part of the, Democrat, Republic, puke, one party, illusionary two party system, they really resonate with him too because he tells it like it is. Like him or hate him, he says all kinds of outrageous, but yet, shit that really resonates with a lot of people. I think though with him, a lot of the supporters that support him are the lower intellect, and they get more into a messiah type, or God, he's going to really rescue us. We don't really have to think much no more. Whereas Bernie kind of captures the hearts and imaginations of people and is really can feel that spirit within him. Now, Donald, you kind of can too, but it's just a matter of Bernie supporters being a little bit more enlightened, and that doesn't make one human worse or better than the other. That's just how it is. And when you see the overall picture, it's undeniable. And I think that anybody who would try to argue that would be acting out of some kind of an emotion and, well, this and that, and whatever. That's something they're going to have to deal with. But this election is going to be interesting to see how it goes. Or just about out of the primaries here in a month or so, and it's probably going to be Hillary versus Trump. Definitely going to be Trump, barring anything miraculous. Going to be Hillary, because Bernie's going to be close everywhere they go. But she's got these super delegates too that can vote for her, that are leaning towards her, that have nothing to do with the regular vote. I don't even want to get into, for people that live outside the U.S., I don't even want to get into how we do our elections here, because I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it if somebody else was telling me. It just so. But Hillary would be really, really wise to, and it'd be a perfect fit, really, the two of them together. And of course, for Trump, the best thing he could do would be to take on Marco Rubio. So, it's just going to be interesting. 2016, we got a leap year this year. We've got the Olympics. Transition year, basically, into what I think is going to be a 7-year phase, 2017 to 2024. I really feel are like a lot of key years. I feel like what people were expecting to happen in 2016, what's really happened in 2016 is the precursor to the spark that's going to ignite what we're going to see play out in the next 7 years. I really do feel like whoever becomes president, I feel like this is our last mainstream president that we'll ever have. Shit's moving that quick. Unless, of course, in 2020 somebody was to upset whoever wins this election. But I don't think so. Usually presidents serve 2 terms, and if it's Hillary, there's no doubt about it. She'll serve 2 terms. Trump, he could. If he'd be the one that would only serve 4 years, whether it's because of boredom and he didn't want to do it anymore. People saw through, his bullshit, and okay, he was great. Or he'd be great and serve 2 terms. But I think in 2024, you're going to basically see the Republican Party pretty much dead, and you're going to see that establishment Democrat side pretty much kind of faded away too, and people are moving more together. The Republicans' biggest problem is, from a pure 3D political issue, they're going to die off because the few things they can't let go of, they can't stop fucking talking about banning abortion, quit talking about abortion, settled issue, quit tripping about gay marriage, get a grip. This isn't 1950. This isn't 1916. It's 2016. Quit talking about that shit. Quit waving the Bible everywhere. Quit, take religion, abortion, the gay thing. Get rid of that. Quit talking about that shit and using it ad nauseum. And quit, stumping on Jesus. Believe me, Jesus was everything that the Republicans are not. It's kind of funny. So if they could get rid of that, and they could get rid of kind of that good old boy mentality, which that's the real problem with the Republican establishment, is we're seeing that kind of fade, and they don't know really how to, adjust. And then you got a guy like Trump come in there who shoots straight, tells it like it is, agrees with them on some issues, but he's got a lot more sense than any Republican that I've ever seen run for office. He's not completely stuck in that fundamentalist mindset, So I think basically that this is going to be the last go. You're going to see your first third party president in 2024. I really feel like that. I know that there's a really great candidate for the Green Party, Jill Stein, and they were asking her, and that's another thing in 2000, a Green Party guy ran, Ralph Nader, a fucking sellout environmentalist who really wasn't an environmentalist, and he took a lot of the votes away from Gore too. But Jill Stein decided not to really make a major push this year because she isn't going to fuck up history like like Nader did. So I think she's eyeing 2024, and I hope so. She's a good candidate. I hope she doesn't get the itch to fuck around too much in 2020, but I think 2020 will be a good election to start hearing about her more and getting her kind of in that. And then in 2024, maybe somebody like her making a move and going for it. But, it plays itself out. Either we're going to have our first female president, or we're going to have, we're going to have the Donald, or, possibly Bernie, or possibly, it won't be Rubio or Cruz, even though they're strong with the Republican base. If something happened, they're just too. Cruz will never quite make it because of a couple of his views. He'll never quite get there. He may get the nomination one day, but he'll never win the election. Rubio is young and he's coming up. In 2020, maybe he'll run as the Republican nominee, of course, unless it was Trump who'd already was running for re-election. But Rubio's problem is he's got a few issues on again with the guns or not the guns. I forget about the gun issue. I didn't mean to say that. The gays, abortion, and gay marriage, and all that shit. He's still stuck in that kind of mentality like that. And so that'll pretty much, unless he gets rid of that kind of mindset, that'll ever get him is the nomination to run in the final for president. It'll never get him elected. It's just the demographics have changed so much in this country that, I mean, the white middle-aged Archie Bunker know-it-alls are dying out. I mean, the country's diverse, and thank God it's diverse. Thank God brilliant women are out there in masses, and African Americans and Latinos, and our Asian brothers and sisters that have moved here and made America what it should be, or starting to, the great American melting pot. I mean, so just on that number alone, unless there is some kind of trickery or tomfoolery, which, with the U.S. is always a possibility, but it's going to be a big, massive voter turnout. And historically, when there's a big, massive voter turnout, the Democrats usually always win. But they're not going to they're just not going to put Trump in there. They're not going to put Rubio or Cruz. People, you've got the dreamer's disease. Unless something corrupt happens, if you think Donald Trump could beat Hillary or Bernie, or any of those other people could beat Hillary or Bernie in a straight up honest election, full turnout election, you've got the dreamer's disease bad. And I don't know what kind of drugs you're on, but I'd like to be taking some. Just look at the demographics alone. They could be close, but it's not going to happen. Now, of course, they could win the Electoral College, given the presidency. They won't win the popular vote, but all you got to do is win the Electoral College. But still, it's Hillary will, they'll make abortion, and it will make abortion an issue, and put it to the Republicans, and the women vote just will not go for that. They won't put up with it, and so it's just not. That's just not the America we live in anymore. We don't live in 1955. Leave It to Beaver, Pat Robertson, Archie Bunker, Henry Kissinger, Ronald fucking dipshit Reagan world where everybody buys into that bullshit and hook, line, and sinker. We don't live in that world no more. And these kids that are 25 and under are just brilliant. They see through it all, and so, the days of that shit is done. Trump is doing his part. Trump came along at the perfect time to stir the right shit up. He was needed just as much as Bernie Sanders. They were both gifts to us from Spirit to do this. But, let's really put it into perspective and understand that, let's be logical about this. Don't quit thinking with your emotion. Quit thinking with your goddamn heart on your sleeve. Okay, and look at it logically. It's the facts are pretty blatant. And as far as those facts go, yes, some shady shit could happen, this, that, okay, but voter election fraud, machine tampering, okay, all that stuff. But short of that, it's just not possible for Donald Trump or Rubio or Cruz to beat Bernie or Hillary in a national election one-on-one. It's just not going to happen. I mean, short of, like I said, some kind of rip off, some kind of error, something like that. But in a pretty typical straight up election, it's just not the demographics. It isn't the same America it was when everything was wonderful as long as you were a white male, a white, you know, uh, a white male. As long as you weren't a woman or a minority, hey, everything was great. It's not that world anymore. Okay, and it's a technical world where everybody's got smartphones. Things are becoming more and more transparent, and the younger generation has twice the consciousness anybody over 50 does. So, I mean, I just want to tell people out there that it's mind numbing to see the way the news is stuck in the 1970s too, the way they think and talk and blah, 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 but yet it's just constant yapping and yapping. And so I just want to wish everybody much love out there. And as far as this now moment in time goes, and this parallel reality or whatever you want to call it, and which changes by the second, that's what it looks like it's going to be. Hillary with Bernie at her side running against Trump and Rubio. And let's just sit back and enjoy the ride. Let's watch how it plays out. Let's just understand and absorb the process that we're going through with love. Not all this stupid fucking rhetoric back and forth. Trump. I mean, these people, I don't know. I mean, they've been watching Fox News for way too long and have too much caffeine in their diet. I don't know what to tell you, but, turn that fucking Fox News off. My God. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And they are really ridiculous. And the other newscasts are they're just dead. They just don't even have a pulse. Okay, it's like a bunch of reptilian brainwashers are running Fox News, but yet the other networks are just some brainless thing without a pulse going on, that just utters robotic words. So, everybody be cool out there. I love everybody. I wanted to kind of share that rant with y'all, and this is Rockin' Larry Lockin', your Pleiadian Lyran contactee with all the cosmic honesty, coming to you from somewhere in the existence, somewhere out there, everywhere, anywhere, but nowhere at all in the same place, and same never beginning nor ending now moment. And that's a wrap.